Onyi, welcome to the Soul Collective podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, it's truly an honor. I just want to share how I got introduced to your magnificence. I am in a course that is taught by Raphael Webb, which is a shamanic star certification for sound, and you are one of the facilitators. And we got a taste of your sound, your voice, and just a magical activation. And I was like, oh, yes, I would love to go deeper and learn more about you and your journey. And yeah, so just so serendipitous to encounter you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Raquel, she's wonderful in the platform that she has built, the community that she supports, the teaching that she gives to the collective in all the different ways is so amazing, such a gift. So it's beautiful to be connected through her. It just such a beautiful reflection that people doing good work are going to extend to other people doing good work, and we just continue to create that energy, that flow, that transformative experience for the collective and ourselves.
Truly. Yeah. It feels like, we are so deeply interconnected. And it's like when we're meant to connect and discover one another, it happens in such magical ways. So, and, I love what you are sharing. And, it's really all about the voice. And, it was such a powerful activation for me to really, tap into some of the exercises and the breathing. And you share in such a fun, heart-centered way. And, um, yeah, I'm just curious, this is something that feels so personal, the using of the voice and expressing oneself. And would love to know about your journey of really activating, stepping into that medicine.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's been a lifelong journey. And I talk about this in the certification program. I provide some content for the students in that program as well, that your voice is not just what comes out of your mouth, the words you speak, or how you sing in the conventional, traditional sense, but the voice is like who you are, how you walk into the world, how you step out into the world, everything you do, how you present yourself, maybe even the clothes that you wear, how you adorn yourself, just whatever expressions there are of you in the spectrum of ways, that is your voice. So, me really finding myself or rediscovering myself from a new perspective, that has been a lifelong journey. And it's always interesting, hindsight, looking back every time I, hit a plateau or go to the next level, just looking back at who I was, whether that was a year ago, 5 years ago, my childhood. It's always interesting to see how far I've come, how I've changed, and how much more I've grounded into myself. And also to recognize the ways in which I actually had a strong sense of myself. And for whatever reason, I left that. I left my voice because some sort of doubt came in and I completely collapsed into it. So, my journey of just finding myself, tapping back into spirituality, spiritual practices, my own indigenous spiritual practice, really understanding the nature of myself, understanding my personality, understanding the negative, neutral, and positive aspects of myself, and not suppressing any of that, but really balancing that, and knowing that my voice comes out in all the different ways. And it's a matter of utilizing my voice and receiving that constant feedback to continue to cultivate, to continue to curate from a neutral place, to continue to refine myself, and just really stepping more and more into the voice that I came here to be and speak as a spirit. We're all we're all spirits having a physical experience. And to me, the life that you live and all the choices you make, all the paths you navigate, are part of what cultivates your voice, that eternal voice that is you. We're here, we exist, we will never not exist. That voice is you, and you're part of the overall voice that is the all that is. And, I'm a singer as well. So I have that aspect of me that is a conventional singer that does performances, whether it's curating my own concerts or singing as support for other individuals for their concerts and their experiences. So that's kind of another layer of me where, I am actually utilizing my voice in that way to provide musical support, to provide enjoyment, to provide entertainment. And so, in addition to or alongside of voice, I've moved through this practice of learning to appreciate my actual singing voice, which again tapped back into this idea of, do I see value in myself? Do I appreciate the unique expression that is me, that is different from other people? And I didn't have an awareness of my actual singing voice until I think I was 11 or 12. Because I would always sing in the house or just do random things, and it was never a thing. It just was like, here I am, I'm singing, but it's not a thing to be witnessed by others. And I remember doing a play in church. I grew up in a very Christian setting, Christian household, so we did a play in church, like one of our Christmas or Easter plays. And someone commented on my voice saying, "Oh, you have such a beautiful voice." And I said thank you. It was great to hear that compliment, but that was the first time that there was this awareness for me that people are hearing my voice and being affected by it.
Mm.
And it's interesting because I think, again, and this I think speaks to the individual experiences and individual trajectories that we all have based on what we're here to learn and teach. I think maybe some people would have been like, "Oh my God, she said my voice is great, and I'm just gonna feel like I'm great all the time." For me, how I took it was like, oh, someone's paying attention to my voice. So I became hyper focused on the idea of my voice. And it kind of became this source of wondering if people were going to like my voice. And so that kind of crept in. And then me, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, and all the ideas about what it is to be a Black person and all the different personality traits or all the different skills and different ways you're supposed to speak or sound. And also in listening to a lot of my favorite musicians, which a lot of them were Black female musicians at the time, in hearing my own voice and comparing my voice to their sound or to the sound of what Blackness was supposed to be. And also because I was going through high school, middle school, and high school when just the ideas of race and like separation and segregation was becoming very apparent, I started to have this idea of like, I don't sound Black enough. I don't sound Black, which was an interesting thing. So it's now you're tying an expression of yourself to this idea of identity that has a lot of conditioning around it that also exists in this, white supremacist world that we're all navigating and breaking through. So I was just negating my own voice from this place of comparing myself in a lot of different ways. So part of my own healing of my voice and just stepping into that place of grounding and recognition for me was to say, this is the voice that I have. This is the voice that my spirit came to have. It's the culmination of my ancestors. It's a culmination of all the different parts of my body. It's a culmination of the work that I've done in many different ways. And it's valuable and worthy. And others need my voice. If they didn't, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't be here. We all need each other's reflections. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. And even if other human beings don't need it, the all it is like, I want to experience myself through you, Emily, and all the different experiences and expressions and all the different ways you manifest. I want to experience myself through you, Onyi, and all the different ways that you manifest. If everyone sounded exactly the same, then what's the point of that?
Mm.
What's the point of that? And
Yeah.
so it's been that journey for me of really truly grounding in, yes, I can appreciate and love other people's voices, but I also get to appreciate and love my own voice. However, others respond to it has nothing to do with me. I just get to be the thing that they reflect on, and it triggers something within them that they get to look at. I can appreciate that. I can take that in and use it to fine tune if I need to. And I can also just leave it because literally it has nothing to do with me. So that's been my journey of really accepting my voice, AKA accepting myself. And as I accept and ground in myself, that emanates in everything that I do.
Yes. I love that so much. And thank you for sharing that journey of navigating. I'm so excited for this conversation. It's something that I feel it's just so near and dear to my heart. And I feel like we all have an important voice to share. And I love how you really share the journey of like, oh, like there's other people and here I am, like, how is my voice in relation to other people? And then really getting to a place of self-love where you absolutely love every part of your own self-expression, are able to really embody that and be a way share to others. And I'm just curious for you, like you share about, singing in the church. Did that continue? Were you always singing like from there? Like what transpired?
So, in growing up in the church, sang in the church. So that was my main outlet for performance, actually, whether it's singing, dancing, or any other thing kind of in the public eye. Again, as part of my self discovery, remembering myself, seeing myself from a different perspective, I moved away from the church, for a few different reasons. I think part of it was just me seeing reflections and seeing expressions of Christianity in the ways that I did that I didn't resonate with and was questioning that. Part of it too was just me having the idea that Christianity was the only expression of spirit and being connected to God, and then doubting my connection to God. So then there away. So by the time is in high school, I was like, I'm not calling myself a Christian or any religion really. I just have a relationship with God or spirit. And from there, I think I did gospel choir in college, but more so because I wanted to just practice singing, and I didn't really grow up with a certain type of gospel music, so that was interesting expression. And then later on in college, I took a Afro Latin percussion instruments class, which introduced me not only to actually the spiritual tradition, the religion that I practice, which is a part of my own genetic lineage, but it introduced me to a lot of the teachers, a lot of the collaborators, a lot of the colleagues that I work with musically. So through my experiences with them, my connections with them, I was part of different ensembles doing Afro diasporic music, had more connections, and so had the opportunity to do some backup singing with an artist, Rocky Dawuni, Grammy nominated Ghanaian reggae singer. So I sang with him for many years and did tours with him. I curated my own concerts, and it was within the last 10 or so years, maybe even last 5 or so years, that I started to see that not only is my voice something that can be utilized in just a kind of conventional performance, but in incorporating little by little my voice during, healing events, spiritual events, and experiencing the people's responses to that, it helped me to recognize, on top of also having various divinations through different teachers and whatnot, just the power of my voice and me needing to sing. I was again grounding more and more in the recognition that, oh, there's something about my voice. There's something about me coming through my voice that is helping people to remember themselves or to have some sort of ignition within themselves to then heal, to shift their perspective, to have some sort of emotional release or response or whatever form of healing that looked like for them. So it's been an interesting journey in terms of the actual like performing conventionally, but also being the one to express spirit and the divine through the voice to help tap into that divine within everyone else outside of me.
Yeah, I love that you hit on that because it's so multifaceted, so multi-layered, and I feel like you are such an activator. Like that just comes through, and watching your energy and hearing you express. And I feel like this is something so important because like, beyond being an amazing singer, it's like there's so many infinite ways that we can express. And, I feel like that's so important for people that are listening at like, you may not be a professional singer. And it's interesting, I'm married to somebody who is a professional singer. He's incredible. And, that's been an edge for me to feel comfortable singing and expressing and recognizing that we all have a unique way of expressing.
Yeah, if we move away from this idea, and I love that you were saying that, if we move away from this idea that we have to be for everyone, that everyone has to respond to us positively or like us, just in general. I mean, again, there's so many layers because the voice is one aspect of that, but that's just in life in general, right? When we move away from that and just say, I'm just going to be who I am and do what I do with whatever integrity that I have, and from my perspective, from as much balance as possible, from as much integrity and peace. And if not, again, you're going to learn from that. But if we're just who we are in every given moment, it's really none of our business who responds, who receives us. We just get to be and do the thing, and life will take care of the rest. And it could be, okay, you could have an audience of five, people in front of you. They're like, oh my God, I love your voice. And you don't know what those five people are going to do. You don't know what ancestors are being healed through those five people. You don't know what future generations are going to be touched. And quite frankly, to try to think about all of that, which I can think and spiral through my thoughts and think all the things because that's part of my nature too. But that can get very heavy, and that can also start if you make the choice of collapsing into that, that can actually hinder you from actually stepping out and just doing the thing because you're so focused, your energy's so focused in that direction that you're not doing the actual thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing. How many times have we heard different artists who don't have conventionally what we've determined is like the best voice? And what is that anyways? It's so arbitrary because you go somewhere else to another culture, to whatever other space, and they find certain things appealing.
Yeah.
So if we all have a different idea of what appealing is, then there is no absolute of like what a good voice is. The idea is just use your voice and let it do what it needs to do and keep moving on. you know?
What you're saying is so powerful, and I feel like it can be applied to literally any form of creative expression, because when we express ourselves creatively, it is vulnerable, whether we're speaking or whether we're creating art or music or, holding a workshop, whatever it is. And I know for myself personally, like I definitely have moments still where it's like, how is it going to be received? Like, are people going to like this? Like, getting in my head about it. And it's like, what you're saying is such medicine because it's like, letting go,
Yeah.
surrendering, like not being attached to the outcome, not being attached to anybody's perception of what you're sharing and just sharing for the love of sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, brought you bring up a couple things that make me think of just two perspectives that can even help someone shift. So, like you said, just do I love it? So, in the moment that an opportunity comes for you to share, as soon as you start as soon as that thought of like, oh my God, are people going to like it? Like, identify it, notice it, and just, do whatever work you need to do using whatever techniques you need to use to say, okay, I understand that that is a thought that a lot of people have and we've been conditioned to have. But what I'm going to do now is to alchemize that thought and go into the standpoint of, is this bringing me joy? Am I excited to do this? Do I have something that I really want to share, regardless of who listened to it, knowing that life hears me, knowing that my ancestors hears me, knowing that all the other creatures hear me. So I think that's kind of one element. And I
Yeah.
think another element too, and this came up was, you know, when we're about to share something, that the nervousness, right? That whatever that energy is called. And so sometimes we can get caught up in the idea of like, I'm so nervous and then so we have the thought, I'm nervous. And then we kind of get stuck in the I'm nervous. And then that kind of stops the energy from flowing. One way to possibly alchemize this for those, that, can utilize this technique is rather than looking at it as I'm nervous, look at it as I'm excited. The energy of excitement is so strong that I'm feeling it in this way. And spirit, my spirit, whatever spirits, ancestors are wanting to flow through me. And I get to be that channel that allows them to flow through and to touch wherever it's going to touch.
I love that so much. Yeah, and I feel like just that shift is huge. And I remember hearing that nervousness and excitement are activated in the same center of the brain. And it's like just that one shift of recognizing that this is an excitement, this is an invitation of something that you get to do, get to
Exactly.
offer.
Exactly. It's like it's a subtle perspective shift that creates a huge ripple effect within yourself and outside of yourself. You can even, I mean, it could, again, when we're talking about performance in any way, whether it's performing a concert or performing a sound healing, we have these ideas that create rigidity, right? It's like if you're performing and it has to be this way and you have to like look a certain way, and you can even be like, whoa, I'm so excited. Like you can literally speak that into the room. And even that in and of itself, you're shedding light on the energy that's present, because who knows who else is feeling that and you speaking to it. Other people might be like, oh yeah, I felt that energy too. And that's so amazing that you called it out. You shed light on it so that we're all again having this collective experience versus I'm just feeling this thing myself in front of people. It's like, no, you're in a room full of people that are sharing an experience with you. You may not be the only one feeling that energy that you call nervousness, but that's really excitement. And that's excitement that's actually buzzing within perhaps everyone in the room. So it's
Yeah.
like just another way to reframe, to kind of call yourself into the present moment and holding space, but also to bring everyone into that experience with you, because you're saying, I see the energy that's here. I'm feeling it. Are you? Are you feeling it? And
Yeah.
if not, okay, I'm feeling it myself.
I love that. Yeah. And I know people may be listening to this and they have something that they want to express creatively, whether it's like a video that they want to record of themselves or, even just, speaking on a podcast or, something like this. And it's like, for some reason, the throat chakra, like activating, speaking, sharing, can be such a vulnerable expression of creativity. And I'm just wondering if you have any other advice and guidance to like help people to really start to feel comfortable around that visibility piece.
Mm. Well, the first thing that came up as you were saying that was you can even do a practice or exercise. So you feel that closing in of the throat. Literally, sometimes people feel it as like, and you can just start to touch that throat, hold that throat. My voice is safe. Take a deep breath. I get to have the voice that I have. Take a deep breath. Existence chose me and this specific voice to be a reflection of it that does not exist in any other form. I get to be here and I get to speak my truth. I get to play in my creativity. I get to learn along the way. Every moment is perfect because that is the only moment that looks like it. And as I continue doing what I came here to do in my joy, I will begin to precisely express who I am. And it is all valid. It is all worthy. It is all worthy. I am here. I get to be, I get to speak, I get to sing, I get to create. Just literally speaking to yourself like that shifts the energy.
Yes, I felt that throughout my entire body. I will definitely go back and re-listen to that. And I recommend for listeners to as well. And, it's interesting where I felt that was like all the way down to the root chakra. And it felt like just this grounding, safe energy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. And one of the things that I was reading a few years ago when I was preparing for a workshop on the throat chakra, this idea that the throat is that midway point between, the lower chakras up and the top chakras down. Some say it's a heart as well, so I can see that. And I always say use the perspective, use the teaching, use the message that is just going to help you break through into being more of yourself in that moment. So if you see that voice is like from the ground up and really being grounded in yourself, from the top down and really that connection to the divine, your throat is that crossroad of all of it. And so really practicing and being in that grounding. And so for you, that it came up as around grounding. So that is the message to you of, what things can I do to be more grounded in myself? Or, my voice is here to support in the grounding of people. Who
Mm.
knows? The other exercise that came to mind, in addition to just speaking to yourself lovingly and reminding yourself of your permission and your validity, is even tapping your throat in those moments when you feel that tightness or you feel that fear about speaking, singing, or presenting. Tapping your voice to say, okay, voice, this anxiety that's coming up, I ask for clarity to understand if it's actually anxiety or excitement, and just drop in, take a moment, be in silence, and to see what comes up. Because you will get the messages if you are willing to be patient and listen and feel in your body. It's one question, is it anxiety or is it excitement? Two, what is this tightness? What is this anxiety? If it is anxiety, what is it tied to?
Mm.
I ask that you reveal that to me in a way that is clear. Be patient. The answer may come in your dreams. The answer may come when you wake up and you have this sudden recognition, or you're scrolling through social media or whatever you're scrolling through, and you see this phrase and you're like, oh my God, that's tied into my childhood trauma of when I tried to have a conversation with an adult, they shut me down. So it'll just be an interesting revelation, but talk to yourself. Again, that's another, the voice, talk to yourself
Out loud.
out loud, literally. Have a conversation with yourself, with your body, with your voice, and say, show me clearly. Speak to me in a way that is clear to me, and I'm open to the message, and just watch what comes up.
Mm. Yeah. And because I feel like as you're sharing, it's like this invitation to develop a deeper relationship with your body, and specifically your throat chakra is like this two-way communication, because the throat chakra is not only like the way that we express, but it's also how we hear as well. I mean, it's
Here, all right, here. It's this, all right, here. So that, again, bringing it, help me to hear. Because sometimes, and when we have an imbalance of the throat chakra, that can look like, and again, depending on what you're here to learn and teach and what your conditioning is and what your environment is, that can look like I'm stifling my voice, so not speaking or not saying or not showing up, or I'm speaking too much. And again, you got to be careful, because the idea of like someone being too much, that can also be an idea that people impose onto us. It's one thing for someone to be like, you're too much, because they're insecure or they're in their anxieties. But another thing for you to, people call it like that, was it like verbal diarrhea or whatever it is, where you're constantly
Mhm.
speaking, or you're inserting and exerting yourself in a way that's out of balance because you're seeking validation. That's it.
Yes.
Because you have this idea that you're not worthy or valid, and the way to do that is to make sure your voice is the loudest and the most da 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 da. That's an imbalance, because it's not coming from a place of neutrality, joy, or balance. You have this idea you're not worthy or valid, or that other people are not, and you are exerting yourself in a way to continue to feed that belief.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're sharing is like just this integration, almost like a energetic integration coming from a place of wholeness, of balance, of neutrality, and that being really your power center to project and to share with the world.
Exactly. Because you start tapping that throat, asking voice, show me what I need to do. And then your ears start ringing. It's like, oh, okay. What is it about hearing? Am I not listening? Am I speaking during times when actually what there is for me to do is listen and take in? Do I have this idea people are not hearing me? So it's, our bodies are such powerful instruments and channels.
Mm.
We're always getting information, and it's often very subtle. It's like, but because we have learned to ignore, or we've learned to tolerate a lot of things, having that high threshold of pain, that idea, um, or we've learned to place more value on extreme, the extremity, like people need a slap in the face, or the break of a joint, or the losing of the voice, when it's like, oh, we just gave you a little tap. as soon as you feel that little thing, as soon as you notice something, start already paying attention, because you can either nip it in the bud, or the lesson you learn in that moment of subtlety can be one thing before it comes to the extreme, which that'll be its own lessons. So if you wanted to learn the extreme way, more power to you. And oftentimes we don't actually need to if we just pay attention.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you're sharing that because whenever, like, I don't get sick often at all, but anytime that I feel as though, like, I have a cold or something like this coming on, it's always just a tickle in the throat. And that is the cue. And it's like, okay, body, I'm listening. Like, I need to drink more tea. I need to get more rest. But, like, it's so subtle. And if you ignore that, it's like, oh, okay, then that's when a cold or something like this could come on, but it is in the subtle attunement in
Yeah,
the body.
exactly. When I In the past, when I would get sick, my voice was always kind of the most affected. And so for me, that was indicative of that kind of weaker throat chakra, because I either wasn't speaking my truth or singing my truth, or I had negative ideas about my throat. So in doing a lot of the work that I've done to heal, to become whole, to really sit in that grounded place of like, no, I'm worthy and I get to be here with the voice that I have. So that experience has shifted to where now, because the other thing can be too, anytime we experience things like, oh, I got sick and it hit my voice, sometimes we can automatically go into this place of like, what's wrong, what didn't I do, and all these things. And it's like, well, sometimes too it could be spirit's way of saying, actually, just sit, be silent, be still. That happened to me last year. I turned 40, had a 40th birthday party, it was great. And then a few days later, I got sick. I think one of my nephews had a cold or something, and just being interacting with him, then I caught something, or I was open to that experience, got sick. My voice was out for like a week. I could not speak, and I was like, why? Like, why? But my voice needed to shut down for me to go into a place of silence and meditation. Coming out of it, my voice sounded very different, and it was another way for me to feel on a visceral level that, oh, I've shifted into another version or dimension of me, and my body literally needs to be like, shut down, so that it could reboot and recalibrate, to where coming out of it is like, oh, I'm really different now. I have a different voice and a different relationship with my voice. So sometimes those moments can be like, no, no, we just need to
Yeah, that really
get it out and go from there.
that really ties into something that I want to ask you about, which is like we think of the voice being one thing, which is like I am expressing myself in this way. And yet, like I really truly believe that there's so much of a ripple effect as you were sharing. And I'm just curious, like for you and your own personal journey and or working with clients, have you noticed like this translation between being able to activate the voice, express in this way, and then how it may translate to other realms of like relationships or, purpose, like all of these things?
Yeah, when I was doing voice work with individuals more consistently, I would be listening, because again, they come to me for voice work, right? Like, oh, I want to be able to sing and this and this and this, and in ceremony or non ceremony. I'm like, yeah, great, okay, that's what you think. And then we're speaking, we're talking, we're doing exercises, and I'm picking up on things, picking up on certain energies of, okay, you are holding back in your voice, and what other ways do you hold back in your relationships or how you show up in other places? Okay, I'm hearing this airiness in your voice. In what ways are you not grounded? And you're always kind of out there in the ethers, but what you really need to do is be grounded, because if you're not grounded, trying to go up into these heights and whatnot, you're going to float away. So in what ways you need to be grounded? And it was oftentimes, and I think this is the case with a lot of different things. I think we go into coaching or lessons for like a specific thing on the surface, but what it's really digging into is certain things that are connected to our upbringing, that are connected to our lineage and our ancestors and things. And so the voice became an opportunity and a flashlight to identifying the ways in which they were tapping into ideas of lack, tapping into, childhood trauma, all these different things, and it was expressing themselves in the voice. So as soon as we identified it, did certain exercises to warm up the voice on the one hand, but also to energetically kind of tap into that specific experience and healing that they needed, then they started seeing a shift in the ways that they interacted with their family, the ways that they showed up in ceremony, the ways, they were walking down the street, nothing to do with singing, nothing to do with speaking. But again, because that voice is more than just what comes out of your mouth, it's literally you and how you show up, then the vocal lessons and the vocal training really was a life training and
Mm.
an energetic healing of self, and because the self is the voice. So that was kind of one thing that I was noticing in individuals, in that work and in other ways. And for myself similarly, but something that's been interesting was I revamped my website. I loved my website before. It was great. And I thought I did a great job. It was wonderful. And just something felt like it needed a shift. And I was having conversations with the graphic designer for my site now, who is a good friend of mine and does really beautiful, intuitive portraits. Her name is Vanessa Marquez. And her design, plus just the clarity that I had gotten to about myself, the work that I do, who I am unapologetically, the combination of that clarity that I had in the content, plus the clarity she has in the design, the marriage of that, the way this website speaks my voice
Mm.
is beautiful. You don't Before you even get to any of the sections that are my singing through sound immersions or through my music, it's just like when you land on that website, because for me, just the quality of content plus the quality of the aesthetic, that's my voice. That's part of my voice.
Yeah.
And to have that site represent that in a fuller way, given the growth that I've experienced, like that to me is an expression of my voice that people experience before they even meet me, but they're meeting me through the website. That's just one expression of my voice.
Yeah, 100%. And, as somebody with, marketing background and company, it's like that's really great branding is when it is an expression of your unique soul essence. And the image that I was getting when you were sharing is like a snowflake. And I feel like the voice holds codes and, our unique voice is like a snowflake, and so it's really interesting to see how that mirrors, like you were sharing, like whatever it is maybe that we're moving through in that present moment. Like, you gave the example of grounding, or, maybe it's like holding back in a certain way. But I've noticed, in my journey, and I'm sure this will continue, is my voice, drastically changing.
Because we're always changing. I think we have such ideas about the continuity of ourselves, given how we've been taught to see that. And so certain things like maybe our voice. I don't know that maybe some people do, I don't know. But I think sometimes people don't consider like the fact that their voice changes, even on like a moment to moment basis, day to day basis. Literally, if the voice is the amalgamation of all the things you're experiencing, the things you ate, the things you didn't eat, how much sleep you got, the impact of the air as you're breathing, then literally your voice, like we're constantly shifting and changing. So I think when we really recognize the how dynamic our bodies are and our spirits are, I think that just gives us a different perspective about our voice and how we can appreciate our voice and how we can recognize the messages that our voice is giving to us. And I love that you bring up that idea of the snowflake, right? That every snowflake is unique. Every voice is unique. Even if you try to emulate someone else, it's one thing if you say, "Oh, I really like their style or this technique that they do, and I really want to practice that technique and that style using my own voice and to see what that brings up or what that brings in. It's another thing to say, I want to sound like this person. You're never going to. You're going to sound like you. And then if it's from a place of anxiety or a place of just imagining you're not worthy and valuable, that energy is going to come through. There's going to be something that maybe some people might on a surface level be like, oh, that's great because they've bought into ideas of what sounds good. And other people, I would say everyone, we feel that on certain levels, and some people might instantly say, there's something interesting about that. Like, it feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel like them. Will be true because it's not them. They don't imagine they're worthy and valuable as they are. And so that is a negation of their selves. And from my perspective, that negation comes through in some way.
It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. And like the image that I'm seeing as you're speaking is like actual color, like of air coming out. And it's like, I know that we don't see that, all of us, all the time of when somebody is expressing and singing and sharing, but it's like we are emanating and it's like almost this life force, creative energy that we move through like all areas of our lives. And that is expressed through this channel, and so like the thing that is coming up for me is just like the way that we allow ourselves to be authentic and creative in all facets and areas of life, like really just allowing that creativity to flow through. And so I'm just curious to ask you, like right now for you, like what is lighting you up creatively?
Mm. What is lighting me up creatively? My website, again, I feel like I give birth. I have not given physical birth, so I don't know what that actually feels like in this lifetime. But in terms of just like releasing this thing that I have created and it had taken so much energy, time, and whatnot. And so just being excited about it being out there and already getting comments from people about how alive it feels or how it's inspiring them to maybe want to create their own websites or update things. So that is like tapping into that like creativity that I was just really excited to put out there. I have some sound healing creations that I've been working on over the last year or so, and they're kind of coming to a wrap. So I'm just like excited about putting all the final pieces of it together. Those are things that are kind of like in the wraps. I'm excited about the cultivation and creation of just continual healing experiences, especially for groups of people. And I launched this initiative called Heal the Healers. And kind of alongside of that, but it's all kind of one thing to me, but it's like heal the healers, heal the artists, heal those individuals that are touching the collectives on just this broad scale. So that healers, anyone from, birth workers, physicians, grief workers, first responders, policemen and artists, again, entertainers, singers, all the people and people in public office too. Who are those individuals that are serving the collective in some way to where their healing is to me tantamount to the collective healing given the reflections that they have, who they're touching, the degree to which the population projects positively or negatively on them, the degree to which they emulate what they do. Imagine if all of those people in the public eye were grounded, balanced, operating from a love of themselves and a love of life. Just that idea of healing them, because that ripple effect towards a collective is to me really powerful. So I'm really excited about creating these healing experiences for like groups of individuals. So you come together, you're a group of doulas, and we do a healing experience for you because as doulas, you're experiencing something specific that the rest of the population is not. Doesn't that work? So your healing is going to look one way. Okay, let's do a group of directors. Your specific work and the energy you tap into as directors, there's like his overarching energy that governs you. Let's tap into that and help you heal. Okay, singers, okay, costume designers, okay, all these different individuals. So I'm really excited about creating these healing experiences utilizing the modalities that I do for kind of specific groups of people, leaders, corporate heads. Imagine them healing, and then the decisions they make for the general public, for the corporations, are coming theoretically, hopefully from a more balanced place. Like I'm really, really excited about creating those healing experiences. And in addition to that, I'm a musician. So again, so I'll be releasing an EP hopefully this spring
Yeah.
of music. And I have a visual project, short film that I am producing that is connected to that. So I've been lining up my core creative team, and it's just now about kind of putting it out there and getting the resources and the funding to help me make this happen. I've never produced something of this scale. So just I'm excited about that possibility of what it will bring as far as the actual work itself, but also the process of just meeting people, working with people, and just kind of seeing how my creativity can express itself.
Wow. So many incredible projects. I am excited just hearing about all of that. And I love how you're blending so many multidimensional modalities together. And I'm curious, do you offer private lessons in addition to all of that, or is it more group
I do.
containers?
So I started off initially kind of more private individual, and then kind of a hybrid group and individual. And so where I think I really shine, given that just the group healing experience is it's powerful. All healing is powerful, but when we're in front of each other, going through our processes, going through healing. Our ancestors are in the same room, our spirit guides are in the same room. We're seeing the reflection. How many times have you looked at a person, they start crying, and then you start crying? Why? Because that expression of release reminded you that you needed to release as well. Had you not seen them, maybe you would not have cried. So there's something about the group experience and the witnessing of each other and the collective healing and the ancestors getting together of like, hey, we're in this too. You guys are physically doing it in this dimension in your generation, but we're all getting together and we're holding space for you. Something very, very powerful to me about that. So I feel like my energy lends itself to really holding space and to kind of weaving together healing experiences for groups. And if someone reached out to me individually and through conversations with them, through an understanding of the work that they were wanting to do, then I see the level of intention that they have. Anything's possible. I'm not going to rule it out, but a lot of my work is going to be group work because I think we need to heal as groups. I think doing the individual healing is wonderful and great. I recommend everyone do it. And also, if you're able to experience some form of group healing, do it.
Yes.
Do it because
Yeah.
you can't. There's only so much you can self reflect.
Yeah, it is so powerful, I feel, in just an accepting, loving container. And I think sound can be such powerful medicine to experience on a group level. So I just love that so much. And we will be sure to link to your brand new, beautiful website in the show notes. Oni, this has been such an incredible conversation, so powerful, so healing, so activating. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining today, and just want to give you space if there's any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share.
Yeah. And I've said this often in the past, and I feel like it's just a message that wants to continue extending itself into the present and the future is you are not your past. You are not your past. What happened in the past is not the only possibility of how things can be. So if you can suspend your belief and attachment to the past, learn from it in all the ways you can, all the ways you need to. If you need to go back to retrieve something to be more of who you are in this present moment, that's one thing. But watch the tendency to continue reconnecting to the past or imagining that things have to be called I am here, I am whole, I am healed, especially if you've been doing all the work to do that. And it prevents you from recognizing that there's a spectrum of possible futures that look completely different from the past and that you can absolutely meet if you put the intention towards meeting it. You're not your past. You are a different person than the past versions of you. and you get to heal those past versions of you by being in the present moment. Anytime they show up, those triggers that happen, imagine that they're past versions of you showing up, and do whatever technique, work, whatever you got to do to just ground back in the recognition called I'm in the present moment. I acknowledge and I recognize this thing coming up, and how do I act as a present me that knows differently? How do I act to then heal that past?
It's powerful. Yeah. Feeling that so deeply. And it's such an important reminder. And we have the choice in every single present moment. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, Thank you for giving us so many just tools that we can actually take with us, and integrate and, really to be more in our body and more expressed. So yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so beautiful. And our bodies are our tools. We are the tool. So trust. I pulled that card in my tarot pull today. The trust card. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your voice. Thank you so much.